following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Telly Olson. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland. I'm at the 420 studio down by the lagoon, as Archie Bunker would say, and happy to be alive on a Friday afternoon with my buddy Mark Littell. How are you, sir?
Well, Ralph, I'm doing pretty good. It's once again a little bit cool up here in North Dakota, but when you stay indoors, you do the sensible thing. So there we are.
If the sensible thing can be living in North Dakota in the wintertime, if that's considered sensible, I understand. It all goes from there. How did you decide? And I harken back to the old guys and dolls store. He's just doing it for a dame. Your wife's from up there, am I correct?
Well, she's not from up here. Actually, she's from Arizona. She's actually a little Scottsdale queen, and so she gets along. But she does get along with everybody. She's well-rounded. She's a gringo that speaks fluent Spanish, and so when the slowdown came, she said, "Well, do you mind if I go up to? We don't have any kids, and up to North Dakota." And I said, "Well, I think you need to see what the real people are all about." And so she's been up here 8 years, and then we're going to move back to St. Louis area, toward the middle of the country, and let her try to catch a catfish, and she'll wonder what that's all about too, I'm sure.
Well, I'll ask you then, on a serious note, what is it like in North Dakota?
Well, you've got 760,000 people in the whole state, and you've got relatively a big state. Teddy Roosevelt came out here, and we're only 50 miles from the Montana line, so it's all oil where we're at right here. So she sells modulars to the oil companies. The other factor is Teddy Roosevelt came out here when his mother and his wife died on the same day, and so he had to find some place to gain some sanity. Well, there's pictures of Teddy Roosevelt sitting there on a horse in the cold with a really big buffalo jacket on, and I'm sure the horse's legs are completely frozen. But how he gutted it out up here, and then he finally got sane and went on to move on to, I guess, bigger and better things and charge up San Juan Hill. So that's what happened, and it's a great state. It's a very great state because it's a lot of immigrants up here. Russian, German, Swedes, Norwegians, just a lot of old history.
What would be the main industry? And I'm sure you said it, oil. Am I correct?
Well, oil, farming, ranching. Of course, ranching. I go to a restaurant, kind of a hole in the wall that I like to eat at. A lot of people do. It's called Country Rose Cafe, and I've met 2 world champion rodeo guys there. So you've got a real big mix of people. You've got rodeo guys, ranchers, farmers, and then you've got your oil guys that come in looking like the Michelin Man, and they take about 3 layers off of the 6 before they can bring up an egg to their mouth, before they can get that thing up there. So they're all bundled up.
What are summers like? If it's this cold in the winter, is it recreational? Are there lakes?
Wonderful. It's a big hunting state, but they have a lot of Medora, for instance, out here is like a Missouri Silver Dollar City, Branson type area. and that's where Roosevelt was from. And they've got 2,000 people during the winter, but 30,000 every day in Medora, with a lot of things going on. But there's not a lot of trees out here. The state tree is the telephone pole. So there you go.
Okay.
and
let me ask
and the
you
wind.
this.
Yeah.
What do you miss most about Arizona?
Well, I like the weather right now, but if you're in Phoenix, you've got 5 million people now, but you've got, when I went there 30 years ago, it was maybe a little bit over 2 million in the metropolitan. So it's pushed upward, and there's a lot more to do, obviously, in Phoenix. But the state of Arizona, I do like the state of Arizona because there's a lot of diverse things and terrains to look at in that state. And, the Mexican line's very close. You can go to the beach down in Rocky Point down there. You're only 2.5 hours away from the water down there. So,
and there's the baseball.
There's a lot of good things.
You must miss that in the winter.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes. Yep. There's a lot of baseball in
now,
Arizona.
What's the biggest up about living in North Dakota? The number one thing we go, wow, I didn't expect this.
You kind of like the people. They're kind of down to earth. They're a little bit like Missouri, but they are a little bit withdrawn from you until they get to know you. That's like any small town. And once they get to know you, they say, well, he's okay. So,
right.
But that's okay, And
now,
you can deal with that.
Spread out as it is, you mentioned you had a coffee shop that you go to. Are there 4 or 5 guys that, or women that come and hang where you can communicate and talk about stuff?
Well, I do. I go to Dunn Brothers, and then I go to Country Rose Cafe, and I bump into a lot of people at either place, and they're
so it's like
just
a little
real
town,
nice people.
Are there bookstores and
oh yeah,
that sort of thing? Yeah.
You've got 25,000 here, and you've got the oil community here. You've got Marathon. You've got the big 3, Halliburton, Marathon, and all the oil companies. They've got only 25,000 people, but they've got a couple of really good restaurants, and they put those restaurants in, I'm sure, for some of these big shot oil guys. And they've got a couple acres under roof, for some employees at some of these buildings up on the north end of town. And it's interesting just to sit there and look at you got the yin and the yang for sure here. You really, really do.
Right.
You're 120 miles west of Bismarck, which is the capital, and then if you go 3.5 hours the other direction, you go to Fargo, which is on the Minnesota line. So we're the opposite direction out here, and they've got a lot of pheasants out here. They got a lot of antelope. They've got a truck driver 2 years ago hit a moose right outside Dickinson out here, and where that thing came from, I'll never know. Couldn't believe it. I could not believe he hit a moose.
I'm just reminded you mentioned Fargo. In a previous incarnation, I sold insurance for a company called Pioneer Mutual. I was a general agent for them, and they invited me to Fargo for a week's seminar, and it wasn't in the winter, so I didn't go through any of that. But yes, the people are friendly. Were friendly to me, and I was a New Yorker, so people aren't generally friendly right away to a New Yorker. It's the same thing. They got to figure out what you're about. But people were very, very nice in Fargo, and the company was a small company and a pleasure to do business with. So
the one thing you got around Fargo is you got Roger Maris thing, didn't you, Ralph? Roger Maris.
I didn't know it. I wasn't aware when I came up
at the time.
First time.
Mm-hmm.
This was back in the
Mm-hmm.
70s, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and but yes, he was from Fargo, and he had a whole bunch of things, but he and his brother had a beer distributorship. Bush,
right.
He worked for your St. Louis Cardinals, and he was rewarded with a Bush distributorship in Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. And
you're right.
They rented from Fargo. He and his brother, and poor Roger. First of all, the Yankees absolutely screwed over him.
Yes.
He had a broken wrist. They didn't tell him, patch it up. It was like horrible. They ruined his career. And so he had a lot of bitterness with that. He was a man for Kansas City or Fargo or cities like that, not for New York. It was he was a
right.
And he suffered. And then it's my belief that people internalize things that cause illness later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good point.
I can't quantify the man suffered from cancer. How
right.
was that brought on? But
right.
there are folks that believe there's a mind over matter type thing, and who will ever know? But it did not add to his the quality of his life going through the experience that he went through. And
he was he was a real quiet person. I met Roger Maris through Whitey Herzog, and Whitey called me out of the locker room. I don't know why. He said, "Hey, country, come here," and I said, "Okay." So I did. I walked around the corner and said, "I want to show you something. I want you to meet somebody." He introduced me to Roger Maris. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And it was in the Busch Stadium. And the funny thing, though, about meeting Roger Maris was just a real nice, quiet person. I guess we're all three kind of alike in a sense, But anyway, I'm sitting there, and you were talking about the Jacksonville distributorship. He got that distributorship as payment from Anheuser, from the Busch. And then 2 years later, they wanted to take it back from him. And so he got into a very big lawsuit, which you're talking about internalization and things of that nature. All these things are coming at Roger Maris. So anyway, he has to fight Anheuser-Busch, Gussie, for giving it to him. So, well, hey, we kind of want it back. We're going to give you something else, but or whatever. He says, no, I don't want it back. He says, you gave me this when I'm planted here. So he won, and he won that distributor. He won it back, actually. I don't know if he won it back. He actually had it and did not have to give it up.
Got to keep it.
Put it that way.
Got to keep it.
He got to keep it, yes. He sure did. He sure did.
Well,
so
may he rest in peace, because
yes, good person.
And it's like my youth for me. 61. I'm just coming into being a kid, from being a little boy to a big boy, and following baseball and knowing it so well at that time, just into it on a day basis, and to watch that race between Mantle and Maris for 61 home runs. I don't know if you ever saw the movie 61 with the asterisk that Billy Crystal put together. No,
I didn't see that one. No.
Oh, it was it had two actors, one who resembled Maris, who resembled Mantle. They had a character playing Bob Serve, and it was their day-to-day existence in New York, being in a little apartment in Queens, the borough I grew up in, and it was so realistic in terms of just creating them as they were in their lives beyond where you see them giving autographs or out of the field, just their private lives and what have you. It was just a terrific movie. Billy Crystal produced it. He was a big Yankee fan growing up, and if you're out there,
pretty amazing. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I highly recommend that as a baseball movie. Very realistic, about one of the greatest individual teams ever. The '61 Yankees. You can compare them to any great team, and you can get an argument. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I mean, it's just interesting to think what you just said about what brought on a lot of illness. And I remember reading about this, but it said that Roger Maris was brought on. He had a lot of stomach issues approaching the 60-61 home runs. It was very upsetting to him and trying and things of that nature. And
the press,
interesting
he
that
wasn't the hero. It was Mantle that was the hero. Mantle,
yes.
who had been the anti-hero all those years in New York, dubbed as the underachiever. He didn't rehabilitate well from injuries and this, that, and the other thing. But when it came down to it, he turned out to be the crowd favorite, and Roger was the anti-crowd favorite. So he went through, he went through hell, and I don't know if he died of stomach cancer specifically.
Right. Yeah.
That could have been as a result, and I remember he was losing hair. Clumps of hair were falling out, and he was separated from his family. I know his family. They depicted him calling home a lot, and so it had to be rough years. Kind of made up for when he went to St. Louis. He led him to a championship or two, or was instrumental. He didn't lead him. He took a lot of the pressure was taken off him, and he really was a good all-around player, not just a slugger. And I want to point out that he was MVP in the American League the year before the homer chase. So it wasn't like he was just pulling it wasn't just like he was pulling a year out of his butt. He was quite a ball player, and
he probably didn't know the pitches that were coming either, right?
Right, that's what we're going to talk about. That's specifically. What a great segue, Mark Littell with the segue of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Terrific. What's your take on all of that?
Well, technology, put into play. You get a little bit different technology. So you've got technology outside the lines, which to me that's cheating. If you go between the lines and you get it, that's intellectual properties, from the player.
Right.
So they understand the game, and exactly, it is a skill. Matter of fact, if you see the second baseman move the hitter, sometimes he'll tell you the pitch. by accident. So a shortstop, he starts moving the wrong way. It tells you a certain pitch is coming. So if they move too early, that's one thing to look at. But that's neither here. That's legal. And with the guy on second base, all they're doing is giving a location. They can't give for the pitch. I mean, you're pretty crazy to give the pitch. But if you tap to the right side, to a right-hand hitter, it's going to be inside. If you tap with the left foot a little bit, or the hand just goes out 2 inches, it's going to be away. So if the catcher moves too early, he gives the location. The location is seen by the hitter looking at the shortstop, and you pretty much know the pitch. If you don't know the pitch, you know the location, though. So,
Mark,
but
in your day of playing, were there teams or individuals that abused that and maybe, let's just say, did it outside of the lines and were reputed to have been doing it? And any stories you can tell along those lines?
Well, the only one that I really heard of was actually with the Yankees in 76, for instance. Out there on that big scoreboard, they had somewhere on that big scoreboard there. We were always sitting out in the bullpen looking for it, but they had a couple lights that would, if a couple lights come on, that's breaking ball. If nothing came on, it's a fastball. But supposedly they had a guy with binoculars and behind one of those little holes out there of the scoreboard of the squares. And I don't know, maybe he was some kind of guru baseball genius. That was way before computers, by the way. But all I can say, it's hard to do, and nothing was proven. And who cares? Because one, you've still got to hit the pitch. Just because something's coming doesn't mean you're going to smack the living shit out of it. The other factor is that a lot of guys don't want to know it because they get antsy and they jump at things and they get ahead of it and they end up popping it up, and so they make a lot of outs on themselves when they know it. And so several guys will tell you, I don't want to know what's coming. I want to react myself, because you should know what's coming sequence-wise anyway. You got a pretty good idea whether it's going to be fastball, breaking ball. But
and if you think the pitch is a certain way, you're so much out in front of it that if it isn't, there's no time to adjust. Am I correct?
Exactly. To me, there's a lot of build-up, Ralph, of the media right now of trying to say, well, oh my gosh, there's cheating going on. Well, geez, it's been going on for years, and I sent you that thing too, Ralph, and you already seen it probably before with Tim Flannery about, being 16 years on third base line, 10 years as a player. Yeah, he's got a pretty good idea. Yeah, he would use it. He would use a camera. La Russa would use a camera. La Russa, everybody that was, pretty intelligent about all this. So, I mean, these guys figured it out.
What a terrific article that was. Thank you very much for sending it. But there are advanced scouts that would come in 3-4 games in advance, and they would try to steal the signs and get the sign that says, I think I know the hit and run, or I think I know this one. And say, okay, great, thank you. Then he goes on to the next, team where he's going to show up on the road, and tries to figure that out a little bit. Who's hurt, who's not hurt? Has anybody changed their stance? Is he trying to take the ball the opposite way more? Yeah, everything. Yeah. I'm curious about the illegal part of it, and it doesn't have to be in called pitches. What cheaters come to mind in your career? How could one get the edge by cheating? They said there was an expression, it ain't cheating unless you get caught, that sort of thing. So obviously everything from cork bats to...
Well, it's like Gaylord Perry, for instance.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean,
makes the Hall of Fame. Amazing how they're getting very high uppity about stuff like that, but when it was colorful, cork bats. I remember Norm Cash being caught, Sammy Sosa being caught.
I saw.
Cheat?
Teddy Simmons got a Teddy Simmons got a home run call back because he grooved it, and that stood. And the catcher was just waiting for it. And grooving is like the same thing as a golf head where it's got those little grooves in it.
Right.
So it's going to come off. The ball's going to come off the bat a whole lot different. It's actually going to come off like a knuckleball, and it's going to give it a little bit more rise. And so that's exactly what happened when Ted hit the home run. As soon as he got back to the plate, the umpire already had the bat in hand and was walking back to put it back behind and store it for MLB at that time back in the 70s. The other factor was, of course, you've got George Brett. You've also got with Pine Tar. You've also got Craig Nettles. I was at that game when all the Super Balls came out. There's Super Balls all over the damn Yankee Stadium. Yeah, holy shit! Here they go start flying, So I think
I would love to have seen a picture of the look on his face when that happened.
Yeah, really. Hey, surprise!
Hey,
it's somebody's birthday today.
And then there was the player. I don't remember the circumstances, but he had a teammate's bat was confiscated by an umpire, and he broke into the umpire's locker room. He shimmied in and stole the bat, or replaced it, or with another one. I don't remember that story.
Well, you got Don Sutton. He used to use sandpaper, in his glove. And on his belt, a Negro, there you go.
Negro had a nail file, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't hook it up to the bench with an electric from the mound to the bench. Hold on. Bob Force used to squeeze the seams up, so you get some different spin on the ball, and he'd do it with his fingernail.
I know you tried to get this by me, but you mentioned 1976 and the Yankees and stuff like that. Was that just to put some doubt in people's mind a little bit? Or?
Probably.
All right, good. But I caught it.
Yep. I mean, it didn't matter, really, because hey, we're just playing ball.
Well, but it did.
Yeah. Yeah. See ball, hit ball, let's run.
That's
so
true.
what?
That's true. Hey, I'm an old New York Giant fan when I'm a kid, and the legend of Bobby Thompson was tarnished a bit when that book came out by the writer of the Wall Street Journal. Talked about just what you talked about. Some of the players didn't want to know what was coming, this, that, and the other thing. Thompson wanted to know. He knew, but you said it best. You got to hit the ball. You could know what's coming, but the skill is hitting the ball going 90 miles an hour with a round bat, a round ball, trying to square it up. But let's face it, it does help to know sometimes.
It does, no doubt about it. But it's a tough game, and I don't know. I like the part of the intellectual properties of if you're smart enough to do certain things between the lines. Yeah, if they're tipping pitches
between the lines, it's a skill. I remember Bob Turley was credited with tipping off Mickey Mantle back in the day, and Mantle said that he got 10, 15 homers a year from Bob Turley.
I'll be damned.
He'd whistle at him or this, that, and the other thing. but that's between the lines. That's or from the dugout.
Sure.
Considered between the lines for this conversation, I'm sure. And it was an art. They say that Eddie Stanky could do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
sharp.
when you get to the electronics of it all, it just changes the game. And were you surprised by the severity of the punishment that Manafort put on?
Well, not really, because if you got all this game-changing things that are going through it, not with what's going on, I was not. Is it harsh? Yeah. Could the owner have gotten a bigger fine? Probably. Slap him on the hand to make it noticeable, but the limit was $5 million, which $5 million to him was probably not too much. But
but it could come in other ways, draft choices, this, that, and the other.
Sure. Yeah, and they did to a degree. Yeah. But it did hurt Houston for 5 to 7 years. I'm sure. I mean, they're gonna feel this for a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yet they just signed.
And so is it Boston. Huh?
They just signed the pitcher Springer, I think, or re-signed to a long-term contract. I don't know. It's Boston gets the repercussions. It goes back to New York getting the repercussions with Beltran, the only undefeated manager in Mets history.
LA wants both championship trophies.
Yes.
So nice try.
All right, Mark. Hey, I love chatting with you.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right. We'll do it again soon, and stay healthy. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good. Ralph.
All right. Thank you again. Thanks for listening out there. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Every time Mark is on, and many times when he's not, I remind that to do me an upper, a real favor, Mark is here. Do him a real favor. Box up some new or lightly used children's books and take them down to the Head Start program. Get a neighborhood thing going, whatever it is, get the kids' books. They got to read. They got to develop an interest, a passion. They've got to become school ready. They got to get ahead of the game, and Head Start is for that. School ready is very important in today's day and age. So bring those books down to Head Start wherever you are. And like I say, doing good for the world is what it's about. Thanks for listening, everybody. Ralph Tycho here. Mark Littell there. Thank you again, Mark. Talk soon. Adios, everybody. The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.